Hey, it's Stan Lee. Fuck you, Jack Kirby. I took this beard oil and I poured it on your grave.
Ahoy, residents. Welcome to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the doctor himself.
Hello.
Each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questioners from listeners like you. And on to the news.
Wow, brief.
Yeah.
You don't give yourself like something fun to say when it's just the two of us.
I said ahoy hoy from the beginning.
No, but I mean like
Oh.
give yourself something fun to say.
All right, Daddy.
Go on, get yourself something nice.
Oh, you're so sweet to me. All right, heading into the news.
Sure.
Legendary creator Frank Miller signs 5-project deal with DC Comics. This is huge.
Yeah.
Everybody's just jumping on the DC bandwagon.
Well, I mean, Frank Miller's hardly a bandwagon jumper.
Okay, yeah, I know. I guess he's been there for a really long time. Okay, but
It's more like, do we need 5 more projects from Frank Miller? Don't get me wrong. Frank Miller has earned his place in like the pantheon of iconic comic creators.
Yeah.
He's more than earned that between his own stuff with like Sin City 300, Dark Knight Returns. Let's not talk about Strikes Again. Like he's part of that fabric. He's iconic and he's earned that. But I don't know that the world needs more of Frank Miller's particular perspective.
unless he's going to be going for some character he's never touched before.
And do what? Make them like a brutal misogynist that like tortures their sidekick and like makes them eat rats and shit. Like that's what I mean. Like,
yeah,
like
it's a weird take on Wonder Woman, but
Frank Miller had his era. And I don't know that he's done a great job of moving past it. You know, in the late 80s, early 90s, a Frank Miller comic fit what was culturally acceptable. And I don't know that it does anymore. I mean, it's kind of a mean thing to say because, you know, maybe he's got something else in the tank that's different from what he's done before. But
has he ever done anything different than what he's done?
You know, and Dark Knight 3 Master Race was his most recent thing. It's definitely better than Strikes Again. But like again, it's like being transported to like 1989 a little bit. Like it's fun nostalgia and you're like, that's Frank Miller. But again, you're also reading and you're like, it's 2017 and I don't know if this is necessary. But so, I mean, it's great that DC is keeping him around because I'm sure he's got stories to tell. I just personally don't know that I'm like over the moon that he's doing 5 more fucking things.
Is there a character you'd be interested in seeing a Frank Miller take on?
If we just take for granted that it's the same like kind of approach?
Yes.
I mean, like Lobo would make a ton of sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's already like within his sort of wheelhouse, right?
Yeah. I really don't know. I mean, like, I don't really love necessarily.
Do you want like a Teen Titans? Like,
oh, fuck me. Yeah,
that's one of the things they say in that new issue. He's getting real dark.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Lobo would fit. Maybe it would be interesting to see some sort of like more cosmic tale from Frank Miller, like something maybe more Green Lantern based or something more Legion. But I mean, Frank Miller and the Legion, that's like oil and water, you know, like that kind of like wacky optimism and then Frank Miller would come in and be like, cosmic boys addicted to space meth or like something.
It would need to be a series that needed to be like rebooted in a darker way, like one that's like something that's gone stale that just needs to be like flipped on its head.
Now that being said, maybe something that would, I don't want to say work because it's always going to be a perversion of a character, but maybe like Wildcat, like the Justice Society member Ted Grant. He's a boxer and he becomes a superhero. But or between that or Hourman, who gets his powers from Miraclo, gives him an hour of power, and there's a whole like addiction sort of like undertone to Hourman. Maybe something more Justice Society based would be interesting to see. But
I'd like Danny,
and that's it. And that's also if he's doing like DC main continuity properties and not just doing his own kind of like Vertigo-y own crap.
I want to see Danny the Street. That's what
oh god. I don't think I would trust a character with fluid sexuality in the hands of Frank Miller.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Lobo, and speaking of Lobo, Lobo's daughter joins the Teen Titans.
Yeah, so they sort of announced a new lineup for the Teen Titans moving forward. It still includes Damian Wayne, but it also includes Emiko Queen, the Red Arrow. It has the younger Wally West Kid Flash. And then, one of the new characters being introduced is Crush. She's Lobo's daughter. We don't really know the origin, or I don't at least yet, of Crush. Because I haven't been reading. Because I haven't been reading Justice League of America, so I don't know if it has come up in there. But yeah, she's Lobo's daughter. She's presumably like a sour grapes badass like he is,
which is fun. I like that they're making it a female character.
I think it'd be interesting to see her and Damian play off each other, because Lobo and Batman have an interesting relationship. We need to just see that like tiny and immature, which is basically what the Teen Titans version should be. So it could be fun, but I know very little about where that character has come from.
That's exciting though.
Yeah.
So Doomsday Clock artist shares exclusive sketch of issue 7. Have you seen this yet?
I've seen, I mean, it's a little bit mean to release an image of issue 7 when they've moved Doomsday Clock to like every 2 months. Like,
yeah, I guess that's
you're waiting so long for issues to like issue 4 just came out,
so they can really like tease it and like.
Well, that's what it is. I think it's partly to keep people's interest up because they have to wait so long for these issues now. But so it's a variant cover, and it's Rorschach beating the teeth out of the Joker, basically. Which
is awesome.
It's great.
That's a great combination. I mean, that's something that I've been looking forward to, is those two coming together anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Doomsday Clock, lots of odd things are unfurling already. But yeah, I mean, the other thing is cover art, it doesn't necessarily show you a precise event that happens in the comic itself, but I don't think you put Rorschach beating up the Joker on the cover if those two don't have some sort of significant interaction, conflict, etc. So it's something to look forward to as this like mystery continues to like unfold.
So are they're 6 issues in then, right? Have you
No, the 4th issue just came out.
Oh, okay. So they
should be like 6 or so in by now, but they've had to move to like once every 2 months or something.
So why are they already showing sketches of 7? I mean, that's...
Well, like I said, I think it's to keep the interest up. Like just bear with us. Look where it's going.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's that a little bit.
Have you been eating it up? Really enjoying it?
I am. I mean, issue 4 just came out, but because we live where we live, it means I won't get it till next week.
That's true. It's like we live like...
Well, by the time people are listening to this...
Yeah.
I will be reading it.
That's true.
I'll have it in my hands by the time they listen to this.
Time travel works well.
Oh my god, technology. But no, I mean I am enjoying it. It's still unfolding slowly though. It feels like a chess match.
How many issues is it going to be?
12.
Wow. Okay.
But they're moving pieces into place, and then I'm waiting for the big drop and the big conflict. Like we still have yet to really see in a meaningful way. Dr. Manhattan, Superman.
Yeah.
Like we've seen Ozymandias. There's been like some other, we've seen Rorschach, but like who is the new Rorschach? I know that's in the 4th issue. I know, but I haven't read it yet. So we're seeing these like things happen, but we're not at the point where like it's bubbling over yet. And that's what I'm excited for.
Definitely. Do you have an idea of where it's going yet?
No, I mean, no, I don't actually at all. But they're laying the groundwork for something like they've been talking about this thing called the Supermen theory, which they're trying to address like why most metahumans and most superheroes are American.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The other thing that they're kind of addressing is like that it's maybe setting off a bit of a superhero arms race. And if that's happening in the Prime continuity, that's not unlike the arms race that happened in the Watchmen universe when Dr. Manhattan came on the scene. So I think they're trying to build some parallels that like maybe what was happening to the Watchmen universe is kind of happening to DC. But these pairings of characters are starting to form. Batman and Rorschach have some interaction with each other already at this point.
Yeah.
Ozymandias and Lex Luthor, the smartest men of two worlds, have some interactions with each other. I don't think it's going to be Watchmen versus DC.
No.
Because that doesn't make sense.
No.
And I don't think it's what people actually want. What I suspect is that Dr. Manhattan isn't even villainous, because that feels a little out of character, but maybe just that he sees the DC universe as like a toy or a plaything, like, you know, like that thing where he's like not connected, which was a whole subplot in Watchmen. And then conversely, you have someone like Superman who's got like the power of, you know, a universe.
Yeah.
He not the same type of power as Dr. Manhattan, but he's the most powerful character in DC, and he is so connected to humanity. So you're obviously moving those two into some form of
it's always someone versus Superman.
But there's something in the naming too, like on the world of Watchmen in this book, it's 1992. Like it's 8 years. Does that work out? Is that math right? 7 years after the events of the first Watchmen, but 1992 is when Death of Superman happened, and it's called Doomsday Clock. And Doomsday killed Superman in that, and that's also DC. Like there's all of these things. I'm waiting for all of those pieces to come in, because it must mean something.
They didn't just name these things and set it in this time.
I mean, who knows? Maybe it's just clever nods, but I suspect there's something more to it.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, let's see here. What are we at? DC announces 2 new Justice League teams at WonderCon.
Yeah, so after Scott Snyder blew the multiverse apart, basically at the end of Dark Knight's Metal, which if you haven't finished it, I won't spoil it for you, but like shit has changed. Mm-hmm. The actual fabric of the multiverse is different now. And so there are new Justice League teams coming. The main Justice League is welcoming Hawkgirl and Martian Manhunter and Green Lantern John Stewart to their ranks. Mm-hmm. And then on the new team front, there's a new Justice League Dark, which will it'll include Swamp Thing and Wonder Woman and Zatanna. Constantine is involved, even though he wasn't in the promotional image. And then there's also a new team for a book called Justice League Odyssey, and it's like a cosmic team, but it's Azrael, it's Green Lantern Jessica Cruz. It includes Darkseid and Starfire.
Oh, really?
I don't know how Darkseid is involved, because he's such like the villain of villains.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously not on the team, but they need each other in some way. Mm-hmm. The design for Darkseid, though, is interesting. It's very different. He looks younger, which I don't know if that's
intentional,
a gap in the continuity, because in Wonder Woman, Darkseid has been a recurring villain in that title, and he's only just gotten back to his like normal form by stealing the powers of the old gods as he's killing them. So yeah, I mean, I don't 100% know what that means, but yeah, young looking Darkseid, Starfire, Azrael, Green Lantern Jessica Cruz. It's like a weird team. And that's like a space story. And I think I know how it would connect to what happened at the end of Metal.
Oh, really?
But again, if you haven't finished Metal,
spoilers.
I don't want to spoil it for you.
No, understandably. Well, that's exciting though, still.
So yeah, there will be more Justice League titles.
That's very cool.
Yeah. I like that they're getting basically the original, or almost the original Justice League Unlimited lineup for the main title, though. It's basically taking the original Justice League, the new 52 Justice League, and that animated Justice League, and putting them all together. So you'll have Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, John Stewart, Green Lantern, Cyborg and Aquaman, Martian Manhunter,
it's the best
and
of,
Hawkgirl.
Yeah.
It's like the all-star kind of lineup.
I think when people think of the Justice League, that's who they're thinking of anyways.
Yeah, especially if they grew up on TV, you know.
Primarily my wife, who very much liked that Justice League animated series.
It's because your wife's awesome.
That's true, she is. Ayer. Is it Ayer? Ayer?
Sorry, I thought you were just describing the gap between things on the podcast.
Ayer. Ayer releases dropped Suicide Squad Squad movie plot?
Oh, right, David Ayer. Yeah. So
Ayer. Oh, okay.
You know how the Joker crashes in that helicopter and then inexplicably shows up at the end?
Yes.
And there were shots in the trailer of him with like kind of a burnt half face, and you never saw it in the movie. So apparently the subplot that was dropped is that as that helicopter crashes and he's meant to die, he makes a deal with the Enchantress. And she's the one that basically like either brings him back to life or stops him from dying. And then he's meant to have confronted the team near the end of the movie to take Harley and bring her back to Gotham. And she won't leave her new... Like, she's meant to have rebuffed him. Which, of all the fucking things to cut, why would you cut the thing where she actually, like, breaks free of the shackles of the Joker? Because now, the way the movie is cut, she's like, yeah, she's with the team, but it's only because the Joker's dead. And then when he shows up at the end, he's like, let's go home. And she's like, all right.
Yeah, that's like really shitty.
It's such like a backwards way to treat that character. It's not to say that would have saved the movie or anything, but it might have at least been better for Harley, for her arc.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
it's unfortunate.
Well, yeah, I mean, heap it on the pile of unfortunate. Yeah.
Oh, can't wait for that second one.
I'm way more excited for that second one.
Really?
Well, because it's not David Ayer.
Yeah.
They're not writing the script in 6 weeks. Like, there's
they're actually going to hopefully take their time with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's wise to be a little bit cautious about any movie coming out of DC, but I'm way more excited for it than I would be if it was the entire same creative team or anything like that.
Well, you know what movie I'm not scared about?
Okay.
Is latest Teen Titans Go to the movies.
Yeah.
TV spot pokes fun at Green Lantern.
Yeah, they mentioned that like every superhero is getting a movie nowadays, and then Green Lantern.
Yeah, they were like, haven't you ever had a movie?
And it's Jon Stewart, and he says, actually, there is a Green Lantern movie. We don't talk about that.
That's so good.
Which is really funny.
I thought that was super, super funny. I mean, it wasn't that Green Lantern, but
yeah, but it's still good. I mean, it's like the same when Deadpool came out, and there's the joke in there where Ryan Reynolds is like, just don't make the super suit green and animated, or something like that.
It's a really, really good one. I thought that was really cute. None of the kids are going to get it at all, but that's okay.
Let's hope none of the kids will get it. Let's hope their parents aren't mean enough to make them sit through 2011's Green Lantern.
Oh man,
a movie I can barely finish.
Really?
Which is something, because I've seen Suicide Squad 25 times.
I actually don't think I've watched it from the beginning to the end. I've seen like the mainstay pieces of it. Like I remember the party scene, and I know the beginning, but then I can't picture any of the rest of that movie.
You know how I am. I'm a completionist. Green Lantern is a movie where I've turned it off after 15 or 20 minutes more than once.
Really?
I've just not finished. I've just been like, like I just give up partway through. I'm like, maybe I'll watch it again. Maybe it's not so bad. And I'll get partway through and be like, oh, fuck this.
This is a man who's watched the entirety of the Lord of the Rings trilogy in one day multiple times.
Oh, like, at least 20 times.
That's really...
I mean, I have a job. I do other things.
Got a wife, I swear.
Oh, I didn't always.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen the photos. Stars says Shazam is a family film, which is, I think it's actually a really big deal for DC.
Yeah, but not a surprise, because I think
definitely not.
David Sandberg had been basically saying that from the get-go. But I think if you want to be true to the original sort of tone of the Golden Age comic books when it was Fawcett Comics before DC bought them, and just true to Captain Marvel / Shazam in general, they always try to keep, even when they write him in the modern age, you try and keep some element of that like kind of golden age optimism, the wonder, and that's because it's from the perspective of a child, right? So I think you're right. It's not a surprise. I think it makes sense. It's only a surprise in that it's not what DC has been doing.
No, and to be honest, I mean, beyond the fact that like all the Marvel movies are technically for everybody, but none of them are specifically a family film, I would say. So the fact that they're using those specific words makes me wonder, like, how much of a family film will this be? Will this be outside of what like all of the superhero movies are?
I'm willing to bet that it'll stop shy of like Sky High. It won't be like
that's a great movie.
I don't hate Sky High, but I don't think it'll be quite that. Like, that's like a family movie. Like, it could have debuted on TV.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I think Shazam will stop just short of that, but I think it's definitely going to lean that way, which makes perfect sense, right?
And it's just like super funny, like directors, like very family focused, like actors in it. Like it makes sense to know that that's where they're going. I just like am so surprised that it's a DC property.
And it's just nice to have a movie that's like not going after the exact same audience, which is people who already like DC movies.
It's true,
you know.
So Batman 66 heads to Riverdale this July in Archie Meets Batman 66. What?
Yeah. So Batman 66, Batman 66 was its own comic for quite some time, where they were just writing new adventures of Adam West Batman.
Yes.
As if the show wasn't canceled, basically. And then they did this big Batman 66 meets the Green Hornet crossover.
Yeah.
Because there was a TV crossover of those two shows. And then they did this comic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then
I didn't know that.
They did this comic to kind of celebrate it. Alex Ross did the art and stuff, and it was awesome. And then since then, they've been matching them up with different 60s things. Like they did a Batman 66 meets the Man from U.N.C.L.E. And things like that.
That's awesome.
This next one that they're going for is Archie. I mean, and Archie is no stranger to weird crossovers.
Oh my god, I think Archie's like where they started.
Archie versus Predator. Batman and Archie have crossed over before. The Afterlife with Archie, or Archie, like that's the zombie one. Like Archie has a history of doing kind of weird, fun things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, in a way, it makes sense, and I think the sensibility of Archie is kind of rooted in like the mid 20th century, anyway. Unless it's Riverdale, unless it's that show. But so I think it makes sense to have that sort of campy, fun, ridiculous. Like
I've seen the artwork; they're definitely going like 60s Archie for sure.
Yeah, like I think Robin and Jughead would go get a burger together.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
that's really funny. Yeah. I think it'll
holy cheeseburger, Batman.
Oh my god! Have you read any of the 66 at all?
I've read the Batman 60, like a bunch of the Batman 66, and I read all of 66 meets Green Hornet. But I haven't read the Man from U.N.C.L.E. one or anything since then.
Man from U.N.C.L.E.'s pretty sweet. That movie was based on the comic, right?
No, it's based on the TV show.
Oh, sorry.
There's a TV show in the 60s, I guess, into the 70s. Man from U.N.C.L.E. But it's Napoleon Solo is a CIA operative. Ilya Kuryakin works for the KGB, and they're forced to work together on things that are too big for the pettiness of the Cold War, basically. And it was them like not getting along but having to work together.
Because the movie was really good.
A lot of people really don't like that movie. I
thought it was great.
I like it.
I thought it was. Really
I don't
fun.
think it's like an amazing film, but like it's fun to watch.
No, for sure.
It's like easy to put on in the background. That's not. They wouldn't put that on the DVD cover. It's not a great endorsement. But
Man from U.N.C.L.E. Easy to put on in the background.
It's in the background.
Yeah. So we got a first look at the Justice League costumes from George Miller's canceled movies. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
Not good. They're not good.
Some are.
That Superman one is terrible.
Superman looks bad. The Batman one looks
really
brutal.
Bad. Yeah. Like Halloween costume.
Aquaman and Flash look very comic accurate.
Yeah.
Martian Manhunter is comic accurate and like weirdly one of the good ones. And the Wonder
Super
Woman
muscly too, yeah.
Yeah, and the Wonder Woman one looks unfinished.
Yeah, a little bit.
The Wonder Woman one's probably closer than most of them are to not looking shitty.
Yeah.
But a bunch of them look shitty.
That Superman one, holy shit.
I kind of dig that Martian Manhunter one in a weird way.
He looked so muscly.
Yeah.
It was gigantic.
He looked jacked. I don't know if that's the suit or the guy.
That's a good question. I do not know.
But yeah, so they released this image. Yeah, George Miller's Justice League Mortal was like a sort of like famous, like that it never got off the ground at all.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing like part of the leaked script or something years and years ago. And like, I don't think that movie would have been great.
No, I just thought it feels like they weren't putting their best foot into it.
But I think it's also from an era where no one was.
No, and that's the reality,
like, I think
right?
it was written the way you'd write like Spider-Man 2, like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. It would have been like fine, but like weird and campy, and don't get me wrong, I fucking love Spider-Man 2. I still think that movie holds up.
Really?
But I think so. I like that one. But it's not the aesthetic of superhero movies now.
No.
But I don't think it's bad. But it comes from an era where we hadn't mastered the superhero movie yet, right?
It's true. They did know how to make that balance sort of reality with like this fun sort of.
Yeah, I mean, what I remember of that script is it felt like it was jumping a lot. Like it was covering, to bring the team together, it was covering too many bases. But I mean, we'll never see it. But yeah, those costumes did not look good.
No, it was real. It was real trash.
Yeah, I didn't love it. Aquaman had the hook hand though.
That was fucking cool. That was real good. Now, I know we mentioned this on a recent episode, but I would love to go more into it. Plastic Man miniseries by Gail Simone.
Yeah. Gail Simone is doing a 6-issue miniseries of Patrick Eel O'Brien, a.k.a. Plastic Man. Plastic Man's been largely absent from the DC universe basically since Flashpoint.
Yeah.
And then he's in Dark Knight's Metal, but only in like an egg form until issue number 6, where you finally see him. And now spinning out of that, he's part of the Terrifics, where they're trapped in the dark multiverse, and he's there with Mr. Terrific and Phantom Girl and Metamorpho.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the sort of like the riff on Fantastic Four kind of book that's out. And yeah, now Gail Simone is getting a 6-issue miniseries of him. I mean, he's a fan favorite character. People love Plastic Man, and he's like incredibly like super powered, you know, like his powers seem like a write-off or seem a little silly, but he's basically immortal. He can do anything. You can't destroy him. There's something interesting in having all of that power in a guy who's like who was like kind of a petty crook, and he's like kind of a sleaze. He likes to look at boobs, or you know, like whatever. Like I think there's something interesting in that. And Gail Simone is a fantastic writer. I don't think that character could be in better hands than hers.
No, that's true. I'm definitely, I know Mr. Kyle Clark was very excited about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like he said on that episode, yeah, Gail Simone is basically almost everything she touches is gold. So,
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to put Plastic Man in anyone's hands, it should be hers, because I think she'll do the character justice. I think she enjoys the fun side of things in a way that some writers maybe try to or want to, but like she really like sticks the landing all the time.
Well, speaking of female DC employees,
okay,
DC Entertainment president Diane Nelson taking a leave of absence.
Yeah, they said for like personal reasons, which is also what they said with Zack Snyder. I mean, this is where like the conspiracy theorists crawl out of the walls like roaches, but yeah, I mean, like that might be a polite way or a deceptive way of like sidelining someone who to date maybe it's some of her decisions that have
put us in this position.
I honestly don't know though. I mean, like every time I've tried to weigh in on this, I think I've been wrong, because I clearly know nothing about Hollywood. So I honestly don't know. It could just be that personal things have come up and she's stepping aside for a little bit. It could be that some of her decisions were the things that like messed up some of the movies or caused reshoots or whatever.
Yeah. And
then that's their way of moving her off to the side. I think either way, nobody trusts Warner Brothers.
No, God, no. No, neither should they. I'm curious because I've never really heard of her specifically having like fingerprints on some of these movies. So
no, I mean, what was his name? Hamada? Or who was the... Am I making that up? Did I just make up like a Japanese sounding name? Whoever the guy at the top of sort of like WBDC was, who screwed with Justice League.
Yeah,
that guy got raked over the coals, of course. But yeah, Diane Nelson really wasn't in that.
You only really
hear about her when they talk about like they named Jeff Johns as like the head of DC Films, and she was like, "Okay, great, welcome to Jeff."
Yeah, exactly.
Or things like that. You only sort of hear about her there. So I think you're right. I mean, we don't like literally you and I don't really know what sort of impact she's had.
Speak for yourself. I've got the insider info.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I did, but at any rate, real or not, or somewhere in between, she has stepped aside for the time being. I don't think that will affect any of the things currently in production.
I'm curious to see what, if anything, it will have some effect.
Yeah, possibly, but we'll just have to wait for a couple of months where they're like, "Oh, it's a permanent leave," and then like someone else comes in, you're like, "Oh, so like you forced her out."
Yeah, and then 6 months later, you hear like, "Oh, this is what really happened."
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's anything like the Snyder thing, then...
Exactly right. Some final nice piece of news to end on is happy 70th birthday to the great Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
Such an iconic creator, and worked on so many books, Action Comics, Batman. I mean, I just named 2 and then froze, but like,
he sure has done a lot.
A ton of books. Really, really iconic comic creator. And yeah, he's turned 70. I don't think I realized that
he was that old,
frankly.
Who was do you have any specific things that you really enjoyed that he had done?
Like one issue or a particular thing?
Yeah.
Not really, actually, but
I didn't realize he did Batman Venom. That was good.
Yeah.
The art in that is beautiful.
It is, yeah. I mean, he's got a pretty distinctive style. No, I don't have one thing that stands out above the rest.
It does not seem like the artwork of a 70-year-old man, I'll tell you that. Like,
what do you mean? Like it's not shaky or something?
No, I mean that like it's not old timey. Like it's not like it doesn't feel like it's from the 50s or something like that. Like
I learned to draw from Charleston Chew.
Oh, you like those old Bubbalicious comics?
Amazing.
No, but he's got like a modern take on comics, and you can see that his imprint has kind of lasted at least with him.
But I think what makes him stand out is that he doesn't come from like a North American school of like comic art. He's European, he's Spanish, and I think he just treats it as art. He's like doing a painting or you know what I mean? Like I think he comes at it from a different perspective, and that's what made him stand out. And I don't want to speak for other artists, but I think people whose work I admire that makes me think, at least in terms of possible influence, that would go back to him, would be people like Juan Ferreira or Jay Lee or Ben Templesmith, or like, there's people who have a real like artistic, like fine art approach to how they do comics. I feel like whether or not that's an actual influence for them, I feel like he's there, like Garcia Lopez is there.
You know what he did do? That's awesome. Is the Twilight Last Frontiers book series? It's like
is that like Twilight, like the vampires?
No. It's so they first appeared in the 50s, but I think he brought them back in the 90s with Howard Chaykin.
Oh.
And it's like a science fiction heroes from DC's, but I remember seeing the books, and they're beautiful.
This is a huge blind spot. I actually know zero about that.
I don't think a lot of people do, right? Like, I don't think they were overly very popular, and they're super like weird looking book series.
I feel so ashamed now. I'm going to have to look it up.
I've seen the books. I've never read them. And I mean, you start looking them up, there's not a ton that comes up, but they're beautifully drawn, and it's all sort of black and white work. It's really, really nice. And yeah, it seems like you can't find a ton about them, but it's definitely worth a look. I'm going to go buy a Google book right now.
Yeah. Shit.
Yeah. But yeah, it's good.
It's so rare that something like that comes up that I haven't at least heard of.
I know. That's very,
I feel like I've really like slept on this.
I know.
I've got to rectify this.
Yeah, I'm reading the Google Books description. It says DC's wide-eyed science fiction heroes, most of whom appeared in the 1950s, are reimagined in this dark tale from the writer Howard Chaykin and artist Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
Stuff like what, like the Legion or like the Challengers?
It doesn't even look like it. So Twilight tells a story of how one of the Star Rovers, Karel Sorensen, became a living god when caught in an explosion with a race of immortal creatures called Methuseloids. It's up to the renegade hero Tommy Tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Oh, Tommy Tomorrow
to stop his former ally, but he ends up absorbing Sorensen's power and becoming an all-powerful tyrant himself.
Oh shit!
Look at that.
I gotta check that out. Yeah.
Hells yeah. Awesome. So let's go to the poll list.
Yeah.
Because I've got some juicy stuff I want to talk about, but I want to know what you've got first.
Oh Jesus! Yikes!
Show me yours and I'll show you mine.
Well, Colin's not here, so
zip.
so I have a shot at being the most handsome.
For me, you are.
In Aquaman, this latest issue is still part of the ongoing struggle of like who sits on the throne of Atlantis. But it's basically a bit of backstory on Coram Wrath. We don't know too much about that character.
Yeah.
But in this issue, we get a little bit of like where he came from, that he's a ninth trider, like the low society of Atlantis.
Yeah.
That he, that his father was, basically like a poor worker, but he believed in Atlantis and thought that he was, like he was like a mason. He was like, every, stone we put down makes Atlantis strong. And you realize that like Coram Wrath, just growing up in that sort of poverty and things like that, he sees his father as an idiot and like he believes that he was scum and that, and he's made himself king of Atlantis, and he's basically trying to cleanse the ninth tride. And partly because they joined with the Aquaman to fight against him, and also partly because he's a racist. Basically, there are people in Atlantis who are called like the Sea Changed, where they have animal features. Like,
oh, really?
Some of them have like a crab arm, or
oh, wow.
Some of them are just giant versions of other animals, like king shark or stuff like that. And he sees them as lesser. That like Atlantis might be underwater, but
doesn't have to be.
But they're not sea creatures. Basically, is his perspective. So, you get a little bit of more insight into Coram Wrath. I think ultimately, at the end of this story, Coram Wrath will be a villain that was like great. He was in there, and you won't really see him again. I don't get the sense that we're building like an iconic Aquaman villain.
Aquaman's Joker, like he's not.
No, like he's not going to be Black Manta or Ocean Master, or even like someone like the Fisherman or the Scavenger or the Trench, even, like to name a new one, or Siren or something.
Yeah.
Like I think he's suitable for the story that's being told right now, and then I think he'll die, and that'll be it.
And that's okay, I think. Like, you don't always need to have that.
I don't have a problem with it, but I think what I mean is that even in this issue where we learn a bit more about him, like I'm just like, get back to Aquaman.
Yeah, it's cool, like, I guess.
Coram Wrath is just there so that Aquaman has someone to fight. Like, I don't feel like I actually care too much about that character, but I'm excited to see where the story keeps going, because I like how much of a political sort of thriller the Aquaman title has become. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, definitely. So,
what did you want to talk about?
Can you guess what I watched this week?
Did you? So you were catching up on The Flash. You also said you were going back on Gotham.
Yep. It's neither of those.
Is it Black Lightning?
No,
because I'm still pretty far behind.
No, and I know you're not going to have watched this either.
Is it Supernatural?
I watched the first episode of Krypton.
Oh shit! How have I not watched? Well, no, I can tell you. I can tell you exactly why I haven't watched that yet. It's because life's a little crazy.
Oh, I don't understand what you mean.
Yeah. I mean,
no reason at all.
No. I really want to watch it. What did you think about it? Don't no spoilers.
I won't spoil it. I'll go vague, but with some detail. It's really good.
Yeah,
it's really good.
You're digging it, eh?
It's not perfect for sure.
Of course.
You got a lot of like Gotham first episode vibes, where it was like, hey, I like where they're going with this.
Right.
Like, this is great. Like, I love the way they portray Adam Strange in this.
Okay.
Have you seen, like, we haven't seen much of him on the trailers.
No, just a very little bit. It's mostly just him talking to Seg-El and being like, save your grandson. That doesn't exist.
They portray him in like this really interesting sort of just like regular guy. Like he has like, at one point they make an offhand comment about the fact that they're like, oh, are you from this like tribe? And he's like, what? No, it's a Detroit Tigers hat. Like, right. And he's just a guy, like, and like that he's got information and that he's doing something important, but he feels like a dude from Earth. And I think they had to make him so grounded because of you're in this crazy place and you need this very strong anchor to bring you back to Earth constantly. And he's not in it all of the time, but he bounces in a couple times and throughout the episode, and you just go, oh yeah, there's a bigger story at hand. Like, oh yeah, Superman. But you get so wrapped up in the story that they're telling that at certain points you forget that it's even about Superman. You're just like, this is an awesome sci-fi.
So there's
like,
just other things happen. Like you're coming into the middle of something else happening.
Exactly. Yeah, which is awesome. Like they start off like really, really strong. You automatically in the first episode find out about a big piece of Superman's sort of mythos. And it makes sense of now how it comes to Superman later on. It's really, really well done. The music is really great. The acting was actually pretty superb considering like this was like I think this series itself was kind of a long shot, and it doesn't look like they put a ton of money into it, but just enough to make it look legitimate. I'm very excited. I've heard some mixed reviews about the second episode, but that like they're heading in a great spot. It just wasn't a super strong. I haven't seen it yet. I have it, but I haven't watched it. But I really enjoyed it. Like I like the characters so far. I like the sort of they do a nice. There's this very like sort of like class system on Krypton that they present, and I'm like, oh, like they basically at the beginning of it, like the House of L, like it's basically like the rank gets taken away, and they're basically just like this sort of like shit on family,
right? And
so you know what the story is probably most likely going to be about them sort of regaining that name and like having it be something of importance,
right?
The whole like Superman cape like disintegrating thing is kind of lame, but like they do it's good enough.
Sure,
it's fine. Like it works as a good plot like device.
Marty, the picture it's changing.
Oh, Doc! Oh no!
Great Scott!
Where Superman's not going to be able to exist. Oh no! It's really really good. I think that like if they continue down this path and like Brainiac's introduction is in the first episode and it kicks ass.
Yeah. Like
the way that they sort of reveal him and you're just like, oh fuck, this is going to be really good.
Yeah.
But like what I think this is pre Green Lantern.
Well, the Green Lantern Corps has existed for
no. I mean, but like their involvement with Krypton, like basically they the only spoiler I'll say is that Krypton, like the planet, doesn't believe that there's any other life besides Krypton.
Oh, that's interesting. And that's a little different.
It's a huge plot device in it. Like I won't ruin why it is, but it's one of the main plot devices for the entire show.
That's a little bit different. Interesting.
So it's really good. It's not amazing, but it's really good. Awesome. And I have high hopes for it. But I think you're really going to enjoy it. And as like a fan, for me as a fan of just like straight up sci-fi, like that's my favorite type. That's my favorite genre, to be honest. Yeah. Though it's not done very well very often. I think that this is sort of scratching that itch that I've been having lately of getting something really cool and futuristic and sci-fi. They do that sort of this is the best interpretation of Krypton I've ever seen.
Right.
It's with it feels like the planet you've always heard of without feeling like, oh, it's super like weird shapes because it's in the weird planet.
It's not just like the spinning like weird discs from the Donner Superman.
No, exactly.
Like the white background and shit like that. Yeah.
It feels like a lived-in city and like it feels like this futuristic city that you've always heard of, and so for me, like there's little subtleties in like the class system and things like that make it feel like, oh, this is a world that's lived in. There's stuff that's going to be revealed to us later on, and like you get little pieces of information that you know are going to pay off later on.
Right.
I'm definitely like on board, and we'll watch at least the next like couple episodes. If it disappoints me in the next few, I might jump off, but
yeah,
I'm ready to go all the way. I read some reviews about some recent Black Lightning episodes. Apparently got good again.
I know it sounds like I'm like making an excuse. I haven't been avoiding it. I just basically haven't watched much of anything in the last
No. I've been very specifically, I mean, for someone
I know you have, yeah.
Yeah, and I've been very specifically avoiding it, and I'm hoping that like seeing these new reviews makes me go, okay, maybe it's worth coming back to, and I'll try to fight through it. And now I have a little bit of time on my hands. I can actually finally start watching shows again, but I think you're going to like it. I'm very excited to see what you're going to do. I know that tomorrow I'm going to watch the second episode, and hopefully the third one's good, but I think it's going to be good. I was very hesitant coming into it.
Yeah.
As I think everybody knows.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go back through the last couple of episodes, everything we said would be like, yeah, we're excited, but Gotham. Yeah, it's always been that. It's always been that, yeah.
So far, I mean, it's one episode, so they haven't had a chance to Gotham it yet, but
yeah.
I think that even if they brought in some of those characters because they set the precedent of time travel within this, they could do it and it wouldn't seem that fucked up.
Booster, Rip Hunter, or
that's what I mean.
Or...
Like, there's things that you could do. I'm hoping that it sticks the landing and like makes it really about this planet. But at the same point, like, I'm not seeing any big enough plot devices that I'm like, oh, this is going to take them for 3 seasons. I have a lot of the stuff that they brought up in this episode. I'm like, this feels like it could get like dealt with in the next few episodes.
Right.
So I'm like, what's going to be the thing that kind of carries this through besides Brainiac, which is obviously something that's going to be continued. But his existence is going to, I mean, the reality is if they think that no life exists on other planets and suddenly this thing that eats other planets is coming, like, and knowledge and things like that, that's going to completely change their entire way of living.
Well, and I got to imagine that's going to have some impact as well on like the House of Zod, right? You know, like a sort of famously...
Who that hasn't even been brought up yet. Yeah. Like, you're really just getting the House of L and like very little of anybody else. So I'm super...
There are sort of 4 main houses from all the promo materials though, right?
Yeah.
It's like L, Zod, Vex, and M or something like that. Yeah.
So I'm super curious. Residents, if you guys have any opinions about this, definitely go let us know on Twitter. Like, give me some hashtag Krypton, because I'm super, super curious about what everybody else's thoughts on these are. And tell me if you're as excited as I am, or if you're still pretty hesitant. Give you some reasons. We're definitely curious.
Yeah.
So on to this week's theme. This is a long time coming.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, we haven't even really talked about this man very much on the show, but this week's theme is King Kirby.
Yeah. Jack the King Kirby.
Jack himself.
I mean, Jack Kirby is a universally famous comic book creator, but I think it's fair to say he's most often thought of in terms of his contributions to Marvel Comics alongside Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Things like Fantastic Four, the Avengers, Thor, X-Men, like all of that kind of stuff.
So I did ask Alexa about Jack Kirby, and she just said that he was one of the longest and most significant contributors to comic books in general. So I think that says something, that like the first thing you don't hear is Marvel or DC.
Well, yeah, but then I mean he did a ton of work for DC, Challengers of the Unknown. He did. Obviously the whole Fourth World, so all of the New Gods, Commandy, he did like OMAC, and just all sorts of stuff when he was with DC as well. He's a legendary, prolific comic book creator, and a lot of the characters that we take for granted nowadays were creations, at least in part, by Jack Kirby.
Definitely. I mean, and I'm gonna blow up your spot a little bit here, but you do have a little bit of the connection to Jack Kirby.
I mean, we're stretching. We're stretching a little bit. I used to write for a website called Broken Frontier, which was mostly about indie comics. But as part of my job there, I did interview Fred Van Lent, who comic book readers might recognize from Marvel Zombies and things like that, and his partner Crystal Skillman, who's a playwright. Mm-hmm. They had wrote a play called King Kirby about the life of Jack Kirby, I interviewed them right before that play was going up in New York, and that interview went up on Broken Frontier, and somehow, for some reason,
they found it.
They knew it existed, but they liked it, and it's printed as the foreword to the published version of their play.
So if you guys find this, you can find out who the Doctor is.
Yeah, if you don't already know.
This is it. This is some big news.
Yeah, if you literally have never listened up until this point, then yeah, you could get surprised and learn my name.
So we got a few great questions on this. I was excited to hear what people have to say specifically about Kirby. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
So on Facebook, Josh Gill.
Gill.
Oh, Gill. He says, has Etrigan rhymed since his introduction? When was the rhyming introduced as something he didn't do all of the time?
Right. So Etrigan, we have talked about this character before, but for those who either haven't listened to that episode or forget, Etrigan is a demon from hell that was summoned by the wizard Merlin and bonded to Jason Blood.
Which is hilarious because that means that Merlin exists in DC Universe.
Oh, yeah.
Which is awesome because
there was a whole series in the New 52 called the Demon Knights. It took place in like Camelot era, but it was like Vandal Savage, Etrigan, Madame Xanadu, Shining Knight, like all those characters. So Etrigan is a demon bonded to a human, and basically, I guess you can make a bit of a comparison. It's like a Jekyll Hyde or Banner Hulk kind of thing, but it's not like anxiety or anything that triggers it. When Jason wants to release the demon, he says this rhyme. He usually only says the last couple of lines of it, which is "Gone, gone, no form of man, arise the demon Etrigan," and then he turns into the demon.
Which is weird because, Doc, when you want to release a demon, you always ask for a Jaeger bomb and then smash it, but your can off your head. But.
Yeah, bud.
Time to release the demon tonight.
Did we get a Jaeger sponsorship?
Fuck, I would. I don't really care.
So in his initial appearances, Etrigan did not rhyme. He just spoke. And not too long after his very, very first appearance, I think it maybe even in an issue of Swamp Thing or something like that, you learn that Etrigan received like a promotion in hell. Like he went up the ranks of demon.
Oh, wow. And
in becoming part of, I guess, what you could call like a version of like demon aristocracy, he became a rhyming demon. Mm-hmm. So then he tends to say things in sort of rhyming couplets, not necessarily like perfect verse, like the syllables are sometimes wacky, but he tends to rhyme. He doesn't always have to. It's not, that gets a little murky depending on who's writing, but he doesn't always have to rhyme. But the rhyming came in because it was meant to show a level of like demon nobility, basically.
Oh.
That's where that came from. He always had the rhyme to change between Jason Blood and Etrigan, but the idea of just constantly rhyming in his speech, that was something that came a few appearances later. Not really that long. It's a pretty big part of the character, and a lot of versions of Etrigan kind of insist on some form of rhyming. I think it's become a little bit of like a character trait, but it comes from that, and what it's meant to mean in the canon and the mythology is that he represents a certain level of demon. He's not like a low level surf demon. He's up there in the ranks. He's not as powerful as someone like Neron, but he's I would say he's up there with like Abnegazar, maybe more powerful than that, or like the Demons 3 or stuff like that.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're heading over to Twitter.
Twitter. Nice harmonies.
Yeah, it's what happens when we're not interrupted constantly.
By whom?
I'm not sure who you're talking about.
Who?
Talking Superman says, "What is the origin of Infinity Man? What exactly is his connection to the Forever People?"
Oh, shit, yeah. So Infinity Man is a part of Kirby's fourth world. I'm going to start weirdly like at the most recent version, and we'll kind of go backwards. So the most recent version was obviously not written by Jack Kirby. It's written by Dan DiDio in a series called Infinity Man and the Forever People. And in that series, Infinity Man is this like super powerful New Genesis creation that we learn eventually is actually like he's been split off as he's part of Highfather. He's like all of the inherent good in Highfather, which also kind of explains why Highfather is a little shifty in the New 52. But in Infinity Man, he's part of the Forever People, which are a group of new gods that are like, they journey to Earth, and they kind of like, one of them like wears a cowboy hat and that because he likes that, he's seen that on Earth and he thinks it's kind of fun. So he does a lot of that, and the Infinity Man is kind of part of this team, but he is like the most he's the most powerful possible version of something from the New Gods. He's immortal and super strong, and he can phase, and he's got like magnetism powers, and he can teleport, and he has these things called infinity beams. But basically, Infinity Man, though, in his sort of original form, he was oh god, it starts with a character called Astor, who this is before Darkseid and Highfather were who they were. They are brothers, Darkseid and Highfather. But Astor he was the Infinity Man, and he saves Drax, who would become Highfather, and he gives him his power. And basically what the Highfather does is he allows the Forever People to summon Infinity Man, this construct with immense cosmic power, by putting their mother boxes together, and I think they say like Taru or something. It's like that's their like call to arms, basically, and Infinity Man shows up. It's in a way, I can see in your eyes you're thinking of like Voltron or something. Like they all have to.
I'm also just trying to make a dumb joke out of putting their mother boxes together, but
oh Jesus. Well, there you go. You made it.
There we go.
But yeah, basically, like they have to come together. It's like summoning Captain Planet or something like that, right? They put all their
mother boxes combined.
Taru. And then Infinity Man shows up. He's shown up in like animation as well. There's an episode of Young Justice where you meet the Forever People, and they summon Infinity Man.
Oh wow.
But yeah, it's part of that like Kirby's fourth world, the New Genesis thing. So Infinity Man draws his power presumably from the Source, which exists beyond the Source Wall. He's summoned by the Mother Boxes, which is and for the forces of good. So technically, Infinity Man is Highfather. So that thing that like I mentioned off the top about the New 52 version is not out of left field. But it was more, he's like an aspect of Highfather that basically the Forever People can summon. If anything's too big for them, then they get like their Megazord effectively in Infinity Man.
Oh, Megazord's sweet.
And then he has more power combined than all of them combined. You could make the argument that he is just like the power of the Source even. That's essentially what Infinity Man is.
Have you it's totally off topic, but Megazord made me think of it. Have you seen the video? I think it's on YouTube, where it's like the Power Rangers, and they're like, and each of them are like pink power, red power, green power, and then it's like the White Ranger, and he's just like, I don't want to do it.
I haven't seen that. I like that.
It's really, really funny. So this next question comes from somebody who's definitely not the previous person.
Oh, okay. How do we know that?
Well, because their name is totally not Talking Superman.
Well, that seems convincing.
Yeah, which is really funny because if you look at their account, they're definitely not the same person.
Are they actually not the same person, but he's just called himself Totally Not Talking Superman?
Well, this is the only tweet they've made, and their name is Talking Again, so I'm not sure. feel like it might be.
That's amazing. That's really funny.
I really hope that because the only tweet they've made was. I really
didn't do my research. I didn't like look into that. I was just like, all right, you're not talking Superman.
Yeah, I guess he's not that guy.
Take your word for it.
I mean, he went almost as far enough to just put a wink at the end. So, yeah, if you definitely aren't talking Superman, let us know. I'm very curious now.
Oh my god!
And if so, maybe we can start like a gang war. Oh my god! It's the Jets. And so, Totally Not Talking Superman says, what would be the best tribe in the Kamandi universe to join? The apes, and in brackets it says the apes that worship the Mighty One? Question mark.
Right. So maybe we should back up and talk about Kamandi.
Yeah. Is it Kamandi or Kamandi?
I think it's Kamandi because he's named after where he was born, which was this bunker called Command D.
Oh, Kamandi, you came and you gave me.
That's it.
I like it.
So this is a different Kirby creation where basically on an alternate Earth, it's basically like a post-apocalyptic future where the great disaster happens.
Mm-hmm.
They never really say what it is. It's something, they refer to it sometimes as like the vortex, but Kirby insisted that it wasn't nuclear war, although there was some aspect of radiation to whatever this great disaster is, because in the lead up to the great disaster, there's this scientist who creates what's it called? Certivix or some sort of, he creates some sort of
that's where babies come from.
A little different. He creates this chemical that basically like increases the like mental capacity of animals, and the combination of that chemical and the radiation over a couple of generations actually creates like a world of anthropomorphic animals. And conversely, humans like get more like wild and savage and like lose brain power. So in this world, there's like a tiger kingdom where there's like tigers walking on 2 feet and like using guns, and there's humans that like scratch their food off rocks. The sort of out of mythology story of this is, I believe at the time DC was like yay close to getting the rights to Planet of the Apes.
Really?
And then it didn't happen, and Kirby made Commandy, which is, it's not a 1-for-1 Planet of the Apes thing, because there's all of these different sort of animal tribes. It's a totally different world, but he also throws in a reference to a different character that he made called OMAC, the One-Man Army Corps, because basically Buddy Blank, who would contact Brother Eye, a satellite in the sky, and he'd become OMAC. He is the grandfather of Commandy, who was born in this last sort of human bunker called Command D. And in their Commandy had like sort of like microfiche and all these things. So he's like learned a bunch about humans, but he's the last boy on Earth. That's like the tagline of the series. Now, there was a map that they put out in an issue of Commandy, presumably near the beginning of the run, that sort of outlined what the world had become. And part of it is that there's a land bridge that connects like Labrador to Ireland, and things like that. But it also breaks down like the political boundaries of this after disaster world. And so what Totally Not Talking Superman is referencing is that these political boundaries are basically by animal. There's like a tiger kingdom, and there are a couple of gorilla kingdoms. Australia is like ruled by the kangarats. And the short answer to the question is that I wouldn't want to live in basically any of them, because a lot of them are pretty hostile to people.
Mm-hmm.
The tigers absolutely are. Commandy does make one of his close friends, though, is the tiger prince, Prince Tufton. But the tigers in general are very anti-human. So I'd want to stay away from that. He does have a dog friend named Dr. Canis. But dogs don't have like a nation of their own. So you can't really get sorry, I lied. There's like a bulldog, like Britain becomes like bulldogs basically, because it's Britain. But here, I'm just going to read off the map just so you get a sense of like why I wouldn't want to live in any of these places. So we've got Madhole, country of the screamers.
Oh my God.
No, thank you. The United States of Lions.
Seriously?
Kangarat Murder Society.
Oh my God.
The Lion Hordes versus the Mao Tse Tigers.
This is insane.
The Commune Bear Silo State, like communist bears. It's in Siberia. There's an area called Strange Fire Area. So we'll stay out of there.
Yeah, no, that's not good.
Dominion of the Devils, in brackets, Insect Revolution. So I wouldn't want to live there.
No, probably not.
There's not a lot of great savage bat tribes in like Peru. There's a lot of places I don't think I'd love to live.
No.
However, Mexico and Central America are the wild human preserve.
Ooh.
Now, how would I fare with like feral humans? Probably not well, but I'll take my fucking chances because
Yeah.
tigers have claws and teeth.
Yikes.
Kangaroos can probably like kick your neck off. Like a communist bear. I don't even know what that means. I don't want to deal with an insect revolution, specifically not if they can walk on two legs and they're the size of a person.
No, thank you.
So I think I would just take my chances in the non-country of the wild human preserve. I think that the trick there, though, too, is that humans, I think in some of those societies, are maybe treated as slaves. So you might want to watch out that someone would like come to the preserve and take you away.
Yeah.
But generally, I think I would keep away from everything. The Commandy universe, though like fun and interesting and totally a 60s thing and totally a Kirby thing, is kind of terrifying. And there have been some different versions of Commandy like over the years. The most recent one, I would say, is you see it in the Multiversity. There's a reason that we picked our 51st episode to be about Jack Kirby. It's because Earth 51 is the world of Kirby creations. So it's the Commandy after disaster universe. You get he's there. You get Prince Tufton. You get Dr. Canis. You get Ben Boxer, who becomes the Biomac. He's like the inheritor of the OMAC mantle on that Earth. And then on the island of the God Watchers, which was always a part of the Commandy world, there's a window to basically New Genesis, the world of the new gods, which is another Kirby creation. So Earth 51 kind of like touches the celestial sphere almost in that way. That's the most recent version of Commandy that I think that we've seen. But there's a ton of Commandy references in Final Crisis, which we just talked about in our last episode. But basically, there's lots of references to that in there. And he pops up every once in a while. But yeah, it's this cool sort of like post-apocalyptic, talking animals, Last Boy on Earth. It's a little bit Tarzan and Planet of the Apes, and yeah, I mean, I think those are probably the primary influences. I was about to try and throw something else in the mix, like Blast from the Past, or like something that's like about like living in a bunker, but like that's less relevant, especially because Kirby came up with it before Blast from the Past was a thing.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, that's the short answer is I wouldn't want to live in any of those animal nations. I mean, I guess if Prince Tufton is your friend, you're doing okay, but like I still don't want to live with the tigers. Just give me the wild human preserve. It's warm, it's Central America. I think I'd take that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, Spider Friends. The Dr. DC podcast will be right back after this quick break.
This episode of the Dr. DC podcast is brought to you thanks to our sponsor, Great Lakes Grooming Company. I mean, if you guys have been listening to the show for any length of time, you know how much we love Great Lakes Grooming. The products are like great smelling. They work wonders for your beard, your hair, your life. Like they'll fix your life. Like, are you having a hard time finding a job?
Did your wife leave you?
Use that like Noble Selves hairstyling cream. Shit's gonna be turning around. I think I'm allowed to say that. That's not overpromising.
Did you lose a close family member?
Peppermint lime lip balm. They're back. No, but for real, we love Great Lakes Grooming. I'm a huge fan of they sent this brush along, like this beard brush along with the beard oil and the beard balm that they sent. So I've got the Clear Creek coffee scent right now. I put in the beard oil, wait a little bit, put in the beard balm, and I use this brush to get it through my beard nice and evenly. And it's the best working like beard products that I've used. It makes it nice and soft, helps it keep its shape, but it's not like overpowering, but it's a good smell. It's perfect. It's amazing. Like I said, there's the Noble Selves hairstyling cream that I've heard is great, but I'm bald, so
it doesn't really work.
I'm bald, and apparently it's frowned upon to style your chest hair. But that pine tar soap, though, again, it's a really like fresh, really like natural kind of scent, and it does the trick and makes your skin feel great. Great Lakes Grooming, all their stuff is meant to be easy and ready to use, rain or shine. Their products are purposefully designed and environmentally responsible, which is great. They're handmade in Canada, and they're ready for adventure wherever one may find themselves. And for those who don't know the shtick, for you lucky listeners, you get 10% off on all of Great Lakes Grooming's regular price products, including that brush and the oil and the balm and all that stuff. When you go to their website, www.greatlakesgrooming.com, and you use our promo code Dr. DC Podcast, and it's spelled DRDC Podcast. So it's www.greatlakesgrooming.com, promo code DRDC Podcast. You get 10% off, and you'll look good, and you'll feel good, and you'll bring your ancestors back from the grave. And now, onto the show.
Ooh,
Grandpa?
you were a disappointment.
Oh.
And we're back.
Hey.
Oh, hip hop hooray.
Hey, ho.
Oh, God, we're so white.
What do you mean?
Chicka the email time.
We're doing it.
Oh, yeah. This one's from Tori.
All right.
I like when you don't include people's last names.
Tori. Infinity Man shows up.
So Tori says, what are the new gods? I don't know much about comics, but after seeing Justice League, all my friends were talking about the new gods. Who are your friends? That's awesome. I want to meet those friends.
Yeah. I like that they finished watching Justice League and they were talking about the new gods, because even though Steppenwolf's the main villain, the new gods are barely in that movie.
Exactly. Tori goes on to say, P.S. My husband loves your show. That's why I thought I'd ask you.
Oh, I like that.
Oh,
Hopefully you like our show too.
Tori! That's my new cheers.
Okay. We're just going to say Tori now?
Yeah.
There you go. You're officially the official cheers of...
So if you're playing the at-home drinking game...
Yeah. Every time you have to drink, you have to say Tori now.
Yeah, that's it. So, new gods.
Yeah, I mean...
This is why we do the show, by the way, because not just for our super dorky listeners, but also for the ones who are still dorky, but haven't really dived into DC Comics. This is the types of questions that we want.
Yeah,
so if you're afraid of like not seeming knowledgeable enough, this is why we're here.
Well, but it can also be done even if you're not like necessarily afraid of it. There's such like a long history for some of these things, especially the Fourth World.
Oh yeah,
gods, that if you don't know, it sometimes helps to just have someone give you the rundown, and then you can jump in and catch up.
Yeah.
On some of the specifics. So yeah, it's a big question. Who are the new gods? So essentially the entire Fourth World, as it's called, was a big Jack Kirby creation that was relatively standalone for a long time. But basically when he came to DC from Marvel, he brought he created this thing called the Fourth World and the New Gods. So essentially there are two planets, New Genesis and Apocalypse, and those two planets are good and evil, effectively. And there's a never-ending war between them. And the new gods that populate that realm, they are, the reason they're called new gods is because they aren't the original, I think, idea was that the old gods were dead, and the old gods included some of like our mythological pantheon, and then they were gone, and the new generation of these sort of celestial beings were the new gods. So characters that you might recognize that belong to that race: Darkseid, Steppenwolf, Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, Highfather, Orion, Baron Blitzkrieg, Granny Goodness, the Female Furies, Light Ray, Forager. These are all characters who are part of the race of new gods. So good or evil, that's what they're called. But they all have different abilities based on what they are like the new god of. So for example, Darkseid is the god of evil. He's super powerful. He has these like lasers called Omega beams, whereas Mr. Miracle is the world's greatest escape artist. That's sort of his special ability, and then he has these arrow discs that allow him to fly. Big Barda is super strong and an incredible fighter and military tactician. And she's got this weapon called the Mega Rod that shoots energy. Light Ray is...
How did they find out what your dad's nickname was?
Jesus, come on. You have no idea how uncomfortable that conversation, like that's my most recent Skype conversation with my parents was.
Yeah,
they were like, oh yeah, we listened to the episode where Richard and Colin implied that your dad has a giant hog.
And then your mom just looked at your dad and winked at him.
That would have made it very uncomfortable. And be like, okay, we'll never Skype again. We're going to go back to just audio calls.
And then your wife just nods at your mom and winks at you.
I don't know why you're trying to make my family dynamic so weird.
Because it makes you uncomfortable, and I like that. I like complimenting you because it makes you really uncomfortable.
Well, I think I had said that. Yeah, it would make me less uncomfortable if you were just saying that I had a tiny penis or like that ran in my family. But you started with like, yeah, the doctor has a huge dick, and I bet his dad does too. Like that's fucking weird. And I've spent way more time talking about it than you guys ever did. So now I'm part of the problem.
Yes. Because knowledge is power.
Yeah, so those were the new gods, but eventually they've been sort of folded into the continuity of DC Comics. Now, where they exist now, there's not like a set of new gods on each Earth. It's not like Batman or Superman where you go to Earth 1 or Earth 2 or Earth 3 and there's a different version of them. The new gods exist in what Morrison's map of the multiverse calls the Sphere of the Gods, which is beyond the orrery of worlds, which means that it's outside of where the parallel Earths actually live. It means that there's only one version of them. Although in some bits of literature, they'll describe like if they go to a multiversal Earth, it might just be an aspect of them.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, there might be 52 Batmen, but there is one Mr. Miracle.
It's true.
That's the general idea. So Darkseid is like the ultimate evil basically in the multiverse because he is a multiversal and he's the god of evil. Darkseid and Highfather are brothers. Highfather is the leader of New Genesis. Darkseid is the leader of Apocalypse. And yeah, it's basically just this massive sort of cosmic opera. And it's about good and evil, and I think it's maybe the defining story, the defining creation of Jack Kirby's like artistic style. The colors, the shapes, the way that they're drawn, the way the dialogue's written. I think the Fourth World is like the purest, most sort of final form that Jack Kirby's creative output takes. You know, when you're seeing things, and there's a good reason for that, when you're seeing stuff like the Avengers or Fantastic Four, that stuff where he was working with other people, even Challengers of the Unknown, earlier DC stuff, there's some speculation about who he was working with on that, possibly even Joe Simon. But the Fourth World is only Kirby. So it's this like you get this real like clear sense of his storytelling and his like artistic output and the way that he wanted this world to feel and look. So everything that spawned out of that are things like the Forever People, Infinity Man, like we talked about. Obviously, Darkseid is like the big bad guy of the DC,
of course,
of all of DC now. Although funny enough, Darkseid did not make his first appearance in the Fourth World comic. His very first appearance is in an issue of Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen on a little TV screen. Someone else, I think Morgan Edge, is like yes, Darkseid, yeah, like doing his bidding or whatever. And you see him on a TV screen again in a different issue of Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. But those were the first two appearances of Darkseid. I think was maybe like a proto idea of what that character would be, and then he really like came into his own as part of the Fourth World.
Yeah.
So when you saw Justice League, Steppenwolf, the main villain of that movie, he does say in that film, I'll take my place among the new gods. That was the little reference there, because Steppenwolf is Darkseid's uncle. He's also like the field marshal of the armies of Apocalypse. So in the original Zack Snyder plan for those movies, Steppenwolf was the villain for this one, and then you'd see Darkseid at the end, and presumably he would not be pleased that Steppenwolf failed.
Yeah.
And then the idea is that in Justice League Part 2, because it was originally going to be a two-parter, Darkseid would come to Earth.
Do you think that there will be a 2 and that will be part of it? No.
That's, I think, officially done. But we are getting a New Gods film with Ava DuVernay directing.
Oh, it's going to be freaking cool.
So if you are interested in the New Gods, there's obviously things that you can, comic books you can read, but I would obviously suggest going back to Jack Kirby's original stuff, because everything past that is an interpretation of what they were originally meant to be.
Yeah.
So I would go back to that.
So do you think that Darkseid will be in, obviously, the New Gods movie?
I can't imagine a New Gods movie without Darkseid.
Yeah.
At least as a concept.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even if you don't see him, like he's like the emperor, and you just, it's like the first Star Wars movie. You know it's an empire. There must be an emperor, but you don't really see him.
Do you see this as a possibility of being a series?
I think if it's good, I don't see why you wouldn't, right?
Ooh.
I mean, we live in a world of franchises. If you make one great movie, they're not going to let it go, right?
No, it's very true.
I don't know that they would plan it that way just in case.
Yes.
But I think if it was successful, I don't see why they wouldn't.
I see some Christians getting real upset with the name.
Well, whatever. They're upset about everything, right?
Are you sure?
They get a sequel to Passion of the Christ. They get something.
That's true. That's true. You got yours. So Vivian Lang says, "Hello there. I just finished Metal, and the Challengers have a bit of a role in it, but it got me thinking, and I wanted to know if it was true that the Challengers were Kirby stealing his own idea, Fantastic Four, and bringing it to DC. Thanks."
Right. So, well, why don't we start with who the Challengers are?
Yes.
The Challengers of the Unknown are these like 4 compatriots who they're in a plane crash. And they all survive, and they decide that they are living on borrowed time, and therefore they have to dedicate themselves to, adventures and things like that, because they basically got a second chance at life.
Did you ever watch No Ordinary Family, the TV show?
No.
So this just very briefly reminded me of it. It was actually kind of an awesome show. It only lasted for, I think, maybe 1 or 2 seasons. But the concept was basically this family was like traveling by plane in some like remote country and lands in this like water pool. Like the plane crashes and they land in this water pool, and for whatever reason the water pool like gave them these like abilities,
right? And
so it's kind of like The Incredibles sort of, but it's basically about this like family who like suddenly starts gaining these abilities.
Well, see, now that sounds like it's Fantastic Four inspired. Now, and I'll get to that because the Challengers are a bit different.
But Michael Chiklis is in it, and it's really good.
Michael Chiklis is in that, and the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Well, that settles it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But it was super super.
Did he
good.
ever say that it was clobbering time?
He said slobbering. I don't know if that's the same.
He was just always hungry.
Yeah.
It's slobbering time. So the main members of the Challengers were Rocky Davis, Red Ryan, Ace Morgan, and Prof. Haley.
Ooh, wow! This really does sound
because it was the 50s.
Yes, of course it was.
Now, while I'm talking about this, could you look something up for me?
I sure can.
They first appeared in a comic book showcase number 6, I think, which is like late 50s, like 1956 or 7 or something like that. Can you look up when the Fantastic Four came out? Because I actually think that the second half of Viv's question is backwards. I actually feel like the Challengers came first, and the Fantastic Four was then Kirby giving them powers. Because the thing with the Challengers is they survive this plane crash. They don't really get powers. They just go on adventures. Their base is Challengers Mountain, and they've sort of come and gone through continuity. I think they've always been a little bit of like kind of fringe characters. There's not like a ton of Challengers stories out there, but they did come up recently in Dark Knight's Metal. They've shown up in Brave and the Bold and in like DC Comics Presents and things like that before. They've even made appearances in animation in Batman Brave and the Bold. The Challengers of the Unknown are in there. They're not unused characters, but they're definitely kind of fringy.
Well, it's funny because the first issue of Fantastic Four was November 1961.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. So the Challengers were this sort of first version of like 4 compatriots are in an accident, but for the Challengers, they were just like, we should be adventurers. We need to make the most out of life. And then what happened over at Marvel is that Kirby had, it was sort of like basically the same idea, and then he and Stan Lee added the element of getting powers, and it was more cosmic, right? The Fantastic Four are on like a spaceship or a space station or something. They get bombarded by cosmic rays, and it's what gives them all their abilities. Mr. Fantastic and Stretch, and Johnny Storm is the Human Torch, etc., etc. The Thing is turned into a fucking monster because life is cruel.
Yeah.
So I think that the influence actually goes the opposite way, Viv, from what you're asking. I mean, I don't want to use the word stealing. Like, it's Kirby was involved in both.
Yeah, no, if there's going to be a discussion about stealing, it's going to be from Stan Lee, not from Jack Kirby.
Well, yeah, that's right. But also, I mean, I have a plan later on to do a couple of episodes on this, but DC and Marvel steal from each other all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So I wouldn't necessarily call it that, but I think you can see the influence of Challengers of the Unknown on Fantastic Four. Obviously, Fantastic Four goes in a different direction. It goes somewhere new. The Challengers of the Unknown have some wacky adventures that involve,
but it's kind of like a first draft of the Fantastic Four.
It is, I think. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So heading over to Reddit, where everything's positive, no one's ever mean.
All right. Let's give it a go.
So Essex LFC5, it looks like.
Easy to say.
Yes. I like the Essex part. That's a county I'm from.
Oh, gee, get over it. You and Jeff Lemire, man.
Oh,
we know.
Yeah. Actually, Kyle Clark, I think, started texting me about that actually this morning.
What, to see if you have any pull?
I think he just wanted to talk to me about Essex County. But,
I see.
Yeah. Essex 5 says, how powerful is Orion? Can he go toe-to-toe with Darkseid? Where does he rank in JL in terms of power level?
Right. So Orion is a member of the race of New Gods. He's actually Darkseid's son. Jack Kirby. I've started doing that at home. My wife does not like it. She's like, you never used to do that before you were hanging out with Richard.
And you're like, Jack Kirby.
Yeah, and now she's not going to like that I used that voice for her, because that's not what she sounds like.
Does she listen
to the podcast? Yeah, she's very supportive.
Uh-oh. My wife does not.
Or just a glutton for punishment. Yeah. Married to me and listens to this podcast. That's 2 strikes. But so, Orion is Darkseid's son. And there's a bit of a story to this. So there's obviously this, as I was starting to explain, answering Tori's question, New Genesis and Apocalypse are at war. It's the forces of good versus the forces of evil. Highfather versus Darkseid. And at one point, this character Metron, who doesn't pick a side, he's the god of knowledge. He's just an observer, basically, helps to broker a peace between the two. And part of the peace, the uneasy truce between New Genesis and Apocalypse, is that Highfather and Darkseid swap sons. So Orion, Darkseid's son, is sent to live in New Genesis and be raised by Highfather. And Highfather raises him, and he becomes the soldier god of New Genesis, and he's a good guy. He actually joins their side, not just because he's living there. He actually believes in it. He hates Darkseid. He wants to defeat Darkseid. Highfather's son is scot-free, Mr. Miracle, who is sent to live on Apocalypse. But Darkseid does not raise him as his own, does not make him evil. He throws him into what's called like the pits. And Granny Goodness takes him into one of her quote-unquote orphanages, which is where they take children and train them and torture them and make them soldiers, basically. So scot-free is also on the side of Highfather. Darkseid kind of misses a trick and like doesn't give himself a soldier. So Scott-Free grows up on Apocalypse in the pits under Granny Goodness's tyranny, and he becomes the world's greatest escape artist, whereas on New Genesis, Orion is treated as Highfather's son and becomes the soldier god and like the leader of the armies of New Genesis, basically. So how powerful is Orion? Well, the second half of this question is sort of compared to the Justice League. Depending on what you read, characters like Wonder Woman or Superman have in the past put Orion in his place. But I think by virtue of being a new god, I think it's fair to say that Orion's power is difficult to match, if not, and even harder to surpass. Obviously, a character like Superman, when the story needs him to, he's stronger than Darkseid too, so he could probably take Orion. And basically, I just gave away my answer there. Darkseid is stronger than Orion.
Boom.
I think they can go toe to like Darkseid can't one punch Orion. I don't think they can go.
No.
They can go toe to toe, but I think ultimately Darkseid would win out. I mean, it's possible Orion could maybe outthink Darkseid, maybe, but Orion is typically shown to be maybe a little bit more brawn than brains, so that's unlikely. Darkseid is kind of a master strategist in many ways, so he probably has the edge there. He's also more powerful. He also has the Omega Sanction, the thing that gives him the Omega beams that allows him to, disintegrate or send through time, depending on the story you're reading, different people. Darkseid is more powerful than Highfather, I believe. He's just more powerful. But I think Orion can put up a fight. And compared to the other residents of Apocalypse, I think Orion would win. Like, Orion, I think, could beat Granny Goodness. Orion could beat many of the female Furies, but not necessarily all. Probably not Barda, but he would, I think he could. I think the best way to put Orion is that he's maybe got the potential, but not the inclination or training. He's
like a lot like Colin.
Well, he's a bit of a hothead, right? Like, he's been raised on New Genesis and he's good. Like, he's been made good, but he's that apocalyptian, that he's still Darkseid's son. It's in him. So he'll act first because of this sort of, you call it rage, or that sort of impulse in him. Yeah. And I think that kind of, it works against him a little bit. But he is among the more powerful of the new gods. So I don't mean to make it sound like he's like a buffoon or he's like a Guy Gardner, because he's not. But he is one of the most powerful new gods, but he could not beat Darkseid.
Wow. Throwing down the gauntlet.
Yeah, I'm actually like picking a side. I know sometimes I sit on the fence with these questions, but no, I'm actually siding with Darkseid on them.
Nice.
Not like I don't believe it. In
No, but I mean, Orion totally could though.
Oh shit!
So going to Legend 1021.
Wow, there were only 1,020 legends before you.
That's right. So Legend 1021 says, I was wondering, Thanos has his Black Order, but does Darkseid have a specific team of warriors that will do his bidding?
I like this question.
Yeah.
Partly because I get to bring up that Thanos is basically a Darkseid ripoff.
Oh!
And like demonstrably less powerful than Darkseid.
Really?
Yeah. But there are similarities, obviously, because Darkseid is a big inspiration for Thanos. But the Black Order, we're getting some shots of that as we're watching these trailers for Avengers Infinity War, which is only a couple of weeks away at this point. And for the record, couldn't be more excited.
Yeah. I don't know shit about Thanos, but I'm super stoked.
Yeah, same. Like, it's a bit of a blind spot for me, but I'm very excited for that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Black Order are basically like his elite sort of soldiers. Darkseid does have elite soldiers. So I've talked about Granny Goodness, and I've talked about her orphanage, and I've talked about how she, they torture and train young ones to become soldiers, or they can't take it and they die. Yeah, basically. But the ultimate goal of that program is to join the ranks of what's called the female Furies. So Granny Goodness is the trainer, and then the female Furies are an elite, all obviously female, warrior group that are Darkseid's most trusted, most dangerous, and best trained soldiers. So their ranks are Bernadette, Mad Harriet, Lashina, Stompa, and for a long time, the leader of the female Furies was Big Barda, who grew up on Apocalypse. But Big Barda falls in love with Scott Free, Mr. Miracle, who is sent to Apocalypse by Highfather as part of this truce. They fall in love and they escape together. They escape to Earth, and they are married. And Big Barda leaves Apocalypse and finds a way out and is good. But the rest of the female Furies remain loyal to Darkseid. So they those are recurring characters, especially in a Mr. Miracle series, because they're tied to Big Barda. There's a real strong connection there. But they do ultimately, even though it goes through, like Granny Goodness maybe first, they do ultimately report to Darkseid. They're his elite soldiers. Now, Darkseid has other like confidants, and like there are other new gods that are like in Darkseid's inner circle, or his like advisors, I guess you call them. Not necessarily soldiers though. Steppenwolf is definitely a soldier. He's a field marshal. But Desaad is Darkseid's one of his more trusted advisors, and he's like a master torturer. His name's Desaad.
Obviously.
Marquis Desaad. There's also Glorious Godfrey, who's basically like his like Goebbels. He's like his propaganda guy. Glorious Godfrey has the power of persuasion. He literally has the power of persuasion.
Here's something I think you should do.
I mean, he'd maybe be a bit more subtle, but he's usually portrayed as having
Gilbert Godfrey.
Yeah.
My name is Glorious Godfrey.
Yes.
I'm a new god.
Do my bidding.
Could you imagine a whole ad? But yeah, so Glorious Godfrey is usually portrayed as in the same way that I keep bringing it back to Lord of the Rings. Saruman has like this persuasive speech that you kind of fall under his sway. Glorious Godfrey is basically the god of persuasion.
Yeah.
His Earth form, like when he hides on Earth, is a TV personality called G. Gordon Godfrey, who is like, he's basically like a Fox News kind of guy who comes on TV and he goes like, we don't need the Justice League. Look, they knocked over another bridge. Who are they? And like, he always like is turning really like funny. Public opinion against the Justice League. Like he's always this sort of propagandist.
Yeah.
So he's another member of Darkseid's inner circle. There's, yeah, so you could, I mean, those people are maybe more advisors, maybe less soldiery. I mean, I know Steppenwolf is a fierce fighter, but he's the general, right? Like he gets the axe bloody, but he's not the one that Darkseid would send on like a special mission. That's the female Furies. That's his real, like his special ops, his like trusted soldier elite are the female Furies.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It's not the what's it called? The Dema whatever things that Steppenwolf in the Justice League movie.
The Parademons?
Parademons.
No, the Parademons are just like the general soldiery. Like those are his expendable troops, right?
Yeah.
So there's like a couple of ways, the Darkseid operates. One of them is, I have these fierce fighters who can do special missions for me, or can lead, be on the vanguard of things. And then the other thing is just, I have so many Parademons. They're his orcs. They're just like, just send them in. I don't care how many die. It doesn't matter. We'll make new ones.
We'll make a wall of them. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. It's like, that's his like shock and awe kind of approach. So the Parademons, for the most part, like don't even have a mind of their own. The one exception is Parademon from Gail Simone's run on Secret Six, who was a Parademon that was like weirdly like freed from the influence of Darkseid and became a member of that team and was kind of dealing with like, it was, like unplug a Borg from the collective kind of thing.
That's cool. God, Gail Simone's smart.
She's amazing. But yeah, for the most part, the Parademons are pretty expendable and a little Stormtrooper-esque. Like they probably don't hit their target.
Like but you throw enough at them and so eventually they'll hit something.
And I mean, that's something that Justice League got absolutely right. Like those are useless soldiers. They don't do very much.
But you can have a lot of them.
You can have a lot of them, and you can have like Wonder Woman just cut a bunch of them in half.
Nice.
Yeah.
So wrapping up, what do you think like was Kirby's biggest contribution to the series, and like things that you're still seeing that was because of him? You mean into DC in general?
Well, I mean, in terms of like a specific creation, it's got to be the fourth world. It has to be the New Gods. It's not an accident that we've spent most of this episode touching on that corner of it.
Yeah,
that's been the one that's been most like widely sort of folded into the DC continuity, and it's had the biggest impact. Their war of good and evil spilled into basically the multiverse. So instead of it just being Darkseid versus Highfather, it became Darkseid versus anyone. everyone, multiple Earths, multiple Supermen. He was one of the big bads of Final Crisis. He was dragging the whole multiverse down with him. He is like the ultimate evil of DC Comics, and that's one of Jack Kirby's like most enduring, most popular creations. In terms of like the spirit of Kirby, like not necessarily a specific thing that he made, I think that it's got to be his sort of cosmic perspective.
Yeah.
When he made the Fourth World, I'm not sure that he had in mind how it was going to connect to everything else. In fact, I'm positive that it wasn't connected to everything else. He was just doing it. And so he had just these lofty ideas of like, it was a very sort of philosophical series. And it started as 3 books. It was Fourth World, it was Forever People, and Mr. Miracle. Those were the 3 books that basically launched Kirby's Fourth World. And all of them dealt with like really interesting philosophical premises. And they weren't afraid of like reaching for weird stuff, like what is the source? What is like creation? What is good or evil? What, like all of these big, vague questions he was addressing, not necessarily answering, but addressing in like the 60s and 70s and in comics that weren't yet that sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you see is, especially in like the work of Morrison or Alan Moore, or even someone like Scott Snyder just coming off of DC Metal, I think what you're seeing is in an interest or maybe a willingness to jump into the murkier waters of like, what are we actually writing about? Like, are we writing about storytelling, or are we writing about existence and not just who's punching whom? And I think you can attribute a lot of that influence to Kirby. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a comic book creator that doesn't in some way draw some influence from Kirby. He's too big not to have been part of it, right? But I'd say it's that like sort of cosmic thing, and he's got such a distinctive style. I mean, I think the best version of Kirby's style that I've ever seen outside of a comic book is Thor Ragnarok.
Really?
You watch that movie, that is Kirby doing art direction.
Wow.
Like all of those, like the shapes, the colors, the lines, the way that the camera moves, or like that movie is like an ode to Kirby. And
wow.
And it's probably the best non-comic book homage to his aesthetic that I've ever seen.
So for people who want to kind of get a sense of what his like sort of work was like, is there any specific series or issues that you might suggest to people to really understand why he was who he was?
I would definitely read Mr. Miracle. Of all those Fourth World books,
yeah.
I'd check out Mr. Miracle. I would also have I'd read The Demon. I'd read Etrigan stories, because that's
really.
Again, it's about good and evil. It's literally Jason Blood and Etrigan. They're good and evil put together. And Commandy is fun, but weird. Like very weird. But yeah, I would say between Etrigan and Mr. Miracle, those 2 series, I think you got a pretty good sense of like the type of guy Kirby was. And I think there's a lot of fun in those books, but they're also dealing with some pretty lofty sort of ideas.
Awesome. Well, those are some great questions we got this week.
Yeah.
If you guys want to send your own questions, we got tons of ways that you can do that. You can do through our various social media platforms, such as Facebook,
Dr. DC Podcast,
or maybe our Instagram,
Dr. DC Podcast.
We got Twitter too,
at Dr. DC.
We also got a great website,
drdcpodcast.com or .ca.
You can just send us an email,
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
And then there's tons of ways that you guys can listen to us. We are definitely on iTunes, and if you go on there, maybe give us a 5-star review.
Yeah,
and
we're definitely there.
Definitely, without that.
The way you said that made it sound like we aren't.
No, we're totally on.
We're definitely there.
We're also on Spotify. And of course, we have an Audacity website. And then there's a bunch of other random.
Sorry, we have a what website?
Audacity?
No,
we don't. Nope, Libsyn.
That just sounds like you're making shit up.
That sounds like a thing, doesn't it? No, that's actually the program that I used to edit this, but that's fine.
We're on vinyl. We're on Laserdisc.
We're on
8-track.
circular like cylinders, and
I know Colin told us what those were called.
Yeah, I know, and I was trying to remember, and I don't. I feel he's going to be very disappointed in me. He's never going to listen.
He
to this.
won't listen.
Yeah, what am I thinking of? But yeah, I think we did it.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thanks again, everyone, for those questions. I mean, again, with some of these like big topics, like we're never going to cover all the ground in one episode. So I wouldn't be surprised if we come back to Kirby in some form or another, either just via other topics or another just Kirby episode. But
all right, fuck you, Kirby.
Stan Lee, how did you get in here?
I'll piss on his grave.
No. Let's add that to the list of things we're stealing from other podcasts.
All right, later, spider friends.
Adios.
Heroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure.